Guys, what's going on? So I figured that I would do this video, basically about disabilities, kids who have disabilities, my own experience with having a disability. A lot of people don't know by looking at me that I do have a physical disability. Some people notice it, some people don't. I guess it's just depends on how much you want to pay attention. But I have mild cerebral palsy. For those of you who don't know what cerebral palsy is, that's why I'm making this video. Cerebral palsy is a physical and mental disability. It is caused by a stroke, essentially. What cerebral palsy basically is from birth to 12 years old, it is considered cerebral palsy, and anywhere after, 12 and over, from my understanding, it's a stroke. So having a stroke and having cerebral palsy is basically the same thing. Some of the effects are the same. Most of the effects are the same. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between somebody who is recovering from a stroke versus somebody who has cerebral palsy. So, therefore, my whole story with that, I had a stroke during birth, caused by the doctor's, I guess it was the doctor's lack of care, would be a good way to put it. What happened was, without getting, too much into it, my mom, she was in labor, she was ready to give birth, and the doctor was not ready to, perform the procedure, whatever, assist in the birth. So, the nurse who was in the room decided, once I was out, the baby comes out head first, that once I was out, she was going to push me back in. And that resulted in me having a, basically like a lack of air to my brain. And that caused me to have a stroke. So, so when I was born, nobody really noticed that anything was wrong until it came the time for me to start walking. I wasn't making those milestones that like a normal baby toddler would. So my mom started taking me to doctors, and everybody was giving her the runaround. I think at one point my mom told me a story where she took me to a doctor, and the doctor took one look at me and told my mom that I had Down syndrome. My aunt just happens to be in the room, and she's like, "What are you talking about? She doesn't have Down syndrome. Look at her. You'd be able to tell if she has Down syndrome." So I think I was probably around 1, and my mom, she was a waitress at the time, and there was a customer of hers that came in who just so happened to be a nurse, and she was a regular customer. And so I guess the one day this nurse asked her like how I was doing, and my mom told her, well, she's not really hitting the milestone, she hasn't started walking yet. So the doctor, or the nurse, suggested a doctor to my mom, and sure enough, it was mild cerebral palsy. And the nurse had told her, I think your daughter might have cerebral palsy, and that's what it happened to be. And I think my mom had brought me in to see this nurse or whatever. She brought me to work with her or whatever. I don't know exactly what happened with that, but that's how I was diagnosed. Now what cerebral palsy affects is my whole left side of my body, and the spectrum for cerebral palsy is huge. You can have mild cerebral palsy like I have, and it's not really even noticeable, or there's babies, children, teens who are diagnosed with cerebral palsy and they are confined to a wheelchair for the rest of their lives. Their hands lock up, which I'll show you what that looks like because I have somewhat of a problem with it. But mine, and I was fortunate enough that my disability is only physical. I do not have any learning disabilities. I have been placed in regular learning classes my whole entire life. I never had to take like special education classes or anything like that. So, and I was fortunate enough that my stroke did not affect my learning abilities. Some kids who have cerebral palsy, like I said, the spectrum is huge. So some kids, they're in wheelchairs for the rest of their lives. Sometimes they're able to, you know, talk to you and tell you what they want and what they need. And then there's some kids who aren't so fortunate and they have to use a keyboard to talk to you. For example, there was a girl in, it was this one class that I took in high school. It was my senior year. This past semester, the first semester of my senior year, there was a class that I took. It was called People Tutors. And basically, the class was, students would sign up for this class. You had to sign up like a year ahead of time. And you would help out with the special needs kids. There was one girl in there particular who had cerebral palsy, and she was in a wheelchair, and it's sad to say, but it was probably one of the worst cases of cerebral palsy that I've ever seen. She had braces on both of her legs. I'll show you what a brace looks like in just a second. I have it right next to me. But she had braces on both of her legs, and her wrists were fused. Fused means that your wrist, I guess I'll show you with my left one, it is stuck. It's like that. And she would have to wear a brace that when her hand was fused, it didn't go even more, and that would help so her bones didn't break, basically, because with cerebral palsy your muscles are so weak, and so are your bones in some cases too, but your muscles especially are so weak that you can sprain or even break anything so easily, and you wouldn't even have to try to. So this girl, both of her hands were like that, where she had them completely fused. With me, I don't really have that problem. My left hand is just really weak. Sometimes, like, my hand kind of droops in my arm. I'm going to back up a little bit so you guys can see. My arm, you can't really see my hand, but my hand just kind of hangs out, and, like, it's really hard for me to extend all the way. It hurts to extend my arm, like back here, I can feel it. To flip my hand over, it kind of hurts. And I've been in therapy for about, well, I'm not in therapy anymore. I was in therapy for about maybe 10, 11 years. But yeah, this girl, she had to use a device to talk. Very intelligent though, and that's the thing about kids with, especially cerebral palsy, but Down syndrome or like any other learning disability or any disability that would affect your ability to talk to people. They're very, very smart. They're very intelligent, and I worked with these kids firsthand, and they're like such amazing people. No, honestly, I love special needs kids. I think in some cases they're better than just like everyday people, because they don't have the capacity to judge one another. They don't know, I don't want to say they don't know what it's like to be judged, because that would be saying that they don't know that they don't know sadness, or they don't know what it's like to be ridiculed. I'm sure they understand that. But they don't have the capacity to do that to one another. They sympathize with that. And it's one thing with working with these kids has taught me, is I already sympathize with them because I understand that. But like, it's hard for me to talk about or explain, because I know what that's been like, and I can imagine. You know what I mean? And that's what hurts when, like, other people say, and I hate to repeat it, I hate this word with burning passion, but say, oh, that kid's a retard, or that kid's, you know, and I hate that, because they're not, and they understand that. And that's one thing that's important to take from this video, I think, is that you can't judge a book by its cover. Even though a kid has a disability, that doesn't affect their ability to understand. I mean, they're just as bright as you or me are, and just because they're in special needs classes, it doesn't mean that they're dumb or they're stupid or whatever. It just means that their brains work a little bit differently, and that's okay. Just because somebody looks a little bit different than you because they have Down syndrome or cerebral palsy or anything like that, it doesn't affect who they are as a person, and that's what's important. With me, I had a surgery. This is, I guess, going back to my life. I had a surgery when I was in 2nd grade. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I won't show you the scars only because it's personal. But I have about 10 or 11 scars on my left leg from the surgery. What I had was a tendon transfer. Basically, what happened is, say this is your foot. You walk like this on your foot, right? Well, my foot was turned like this, completely on its side. So I was walking on the outside of my foot. And the surgery that I had, what was called, it was a tendon transfer and Achilles heel release. Tendon transfer, you have 2 tendons on either side of your foot. They snipped them in half, crisscrossed them, and then pulled them out the bottom of my foot. And then they released my Achilles tendon, which was the really, really tricky and dangerous part. I had a 50-50 chance of walking after this, and given I was fine, I was able to walk before the surgery. Thankfully, I went to an amazing hospital in Chicago called Shriners Children's Hospital, and my doctor did like an awesome job. He was able to get me up back and walking, and I actually haven't had to wear a brace ever since then. I think I wore a brace for maybe 1-2 years, maybe even a couple months, I don't remember. But I wore a brace for a little bit after that, and then I haven't worn a brace since. Given I still walk with a little limp, that's probably never going to go away. But that's okay. I mean, what can I do, you know? And I'm fortunate enough that that I don't have to live with a more severe case of what I have. But in a lot of ways, I'm lucky that I was born with cerebral palsy, because it gives me the capacity to not judge, to sympathize with the kids, to know what they're going through in a lot of ways. And even though mine is less severe and mine's a lot more mild, that doesn't mean I can't sympathize with what those kids have been through. And that's actually what I want to go to college for, and what I want to major in is special needs education and teacher's aid. So, yeah, I'll show you what my brace looked like. I haven't worn this thing in forever, but this is what it looks like. This is for my left foot. And I figured, like, I would do this video now because part of the reason was I was looking back at a video that I posted last week about my shower routine and stuff, and you can clearly see with my left hand that, you know, it's kind of floppy and it doesn't really do much, and it looks kind of weird. So I figured I would kind of explain that and why it is the way it is. Like I said, the disability, it affects my left side. It's my whole entire left side. Like I said, I limp. my hand, obviously, and my arm. And then there's, I have a lazy eye, so my eye kind of turns out. It's not really a lazy eye, because from what the doctors tell me, a lazy eye is when the eye is permanently stuck in one position. Mine is not stuck. I can bring it back in. So it's like this really fancy word, but basically it's just where my eye turns out. Nothing more, nothing less than that. So that's why I actually wear glasses. I have perfect vision. Now my vision isn't so good because I've been wearing glasses for so long, but with my glasses I have 20/20 vision, and the glasses are to help with my eye turn. So, yeah, I guess that's the end of this video. What I'm hoping that people take out of this video is don't judge a book by its cover. Just because somebody does not look like they have something wrong with them doesn't mean that they don't. A lot of disabilities are less mild than others, especially cerebral palsy is, I think, one of the big ones. And yeah, don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, you don't always know what a person has been through. You don't always know what they're going through. So yeah, I think I'll probably end this here. So I will probably be making another video about stuttering, because I do have a stutter also, but that's going to be in the next video. So I will see you guys in that video. Whoop whoop. Peace.